Hi there everybody, today we are going to look at something called stratified sampling. Okay, so it's an idea of taking a sample of data which is a smaller sample based on what you argue would be a bigger sample. So it's a method of sampling that involves division of population into smaller groups known as strata, often used by conducting surveys. All right, so quite wordy. So the stratum is taken in a number proportional to the stratum size when compared to the population. So, for example, if you've got a school of 300 students which consists of 120 boys and 180 girls, and you want to do a stratified sample or a survey, rather than doing absolutely everybody there, all 300, and we're going to basically do a survey of 50 people, then I want to take basically the number of boys and number of girls which represents the proportion which is currently out there. So what I'm looking for really is, well, I've got 300 and obviously I've got 50. So I'm going to take 300 divided by 50, which is going to give me essentially a sixth. It's a sixth of the size, okay? So because it's a sixth of the size, so 50 divided by 300 gives me the 6. I'm going to times that by 120, which is going to give me 20, all right? So I'll just say that again. So I've got 50 divided by 300, that gives me 1/6, and then times it by 120, all right? So basically I want 1/6 of 120. All right, it's going to give me 20, and they're going to do this in the same way that I want 1/6 of 180. So there you go. So 50 divided by 300 and times by 180, it gives me 30. All right, so that 20 and 30 obviously gives me 50. But we're talking about a sixth of this lot and a sixth of this lot, essentially, by doing this calculation. And it's those two values. That's going to be my sample size. I want 20 boys and 30 girls, because that is representative of the population, all right, because there are obviously less boys than there are girls, so hence I'm going to survey less boys and obviously more girls, all right. So in terms of doing something similar, all right, there is something called the capture-recapture method. So what the recapture method is a way of estimating a population size out in the field, essentially. So what you tend to do, you take a sample of something, mark it in some way, and then send it back in the wild, and then take a collection in, and from there you estimate how big the population is, obviously depending on what you get back. All right. So an example: if you get 20 fish caught in a lake, marked, and then sent out, and then a week later you catch 10 again, of which 4 have had the markings, and you're trying to estimate the number of fish in the lake. All right, so there's kind of formula to kind of doing this, but I'll try to explain roughly. So to estimate the population, you just multiply the original amount caught, so that's 20, marked, and then multiply it. Sorry, let me start again. So estimate the population, you multiply the original amount caught by the new number caught, all right, so 20 times 10, and divide by the number of fish in the new batch, which should be 4, all right. I'll write that down in a second, but essentially where this kind of comes from is the idea of saying, well, here I had 20, so 20 is equal to 2/5 of X, all right, so what we're going to do is when we sent 20 out into the wild, then what I got back is 4/10 of what the actual population actually is, all right, because I only got 4/10 back. All right, so 20 is equal to 4/10 of what the population is. All right, so when I rearrange this, I'm going to do 20 times by the 10 and then divide it by 4, and that's going to give me the population size. So over here you can see it's going to be 20 times by 10, so that remains divided by 4, and that's going to give me the population size. So that's what this bit is talking about. So to work out the population size, it's going to be actually in this case 50. All right, so what you think about that, you can have a think about it for a second. But what we're saying is, when we took 20 out, it's basically I got 4 out of 10 of the population back. So I've got 4/10 of the population, and that obviously is equal to the 20 I sent out. So try and think about it. So I got 2/5 back. Well, if there were 20 out there, and I got 2/5 back, then obviously if I think about 20 being equal to 2/5, well, 1/5 must be equal to 10. So 5/5. The whole lot must be equal to 50, which is where that kind of come from. All right, so that is a way of working out, and you might want to think about keep coming back and looking at that kind of idea. All right, so that's where it's kind of come from. So 20 times 10 over 4 is going to give you 50. All right, there are some questions online for you how to practice it, but it is obviously the idea of trying to think about the sample size that you have got back compared to what you kind of sent out there. All right, so please look at this again. Obviously, have another think about it. Maybe pause the video and consider the information. And obviously, the content is online as well. All right, but thanks for listening.